It was December 26, 1996, in Boulder, Colorado. Patsy Ramsey comes downstairs in the early morning and finds a note on the kitchen floor. It is 3 pages long, handwritten. It says her daughter has been taken by a small foreign faction and demands $118,000 for her safe return. It gives specific instructions. It threatens. It is written in the particular language of ransom notes from movies and television. Theatrical, overwrought, specific in some ways, and vague in others. Patsy calls 911. JonBenét Ramsey is 6 years old. She is a child who has been entered in beauty pageants. Photographs of her in full competition makeup, in elaborate costumes, performing for judges, have been circulating in the family's world for years. She is also, by every account of people who knew her, simply a little girl, a child who liked to play, who had friends, who celebrated Christmas the night before with her family in the house on 15th Street. The police arrive. Friends of the family arrive. People move through the house. The crime scene, because it is a crime scene, a child is missing, is not treated as a crime scene. People make coffee. People sit in the living room. Investigators do not immediately seal the house, do not immediately restrict movement, do not immediately do the things that need to be done in the first hours of an active investigation to preserve what is there. Hours pass. In the afternoon, investigators ask John Ramsey to search the house. He goes to the basement. He opens the door of the wine cellar. JonBenét is inside. She has been strangled. There is evidence of sexual assault. She has been there since some point during the previous night. She has been in the basement of her own home the entire time that the ransom note was being read, and the police were being called, and friends were sitting in the kitchen, and investigators were moving through the rooms above her. She was never taken anywhere. The note was $118,000. John Ramsey's Christmas bonus that year was $118,000. Not approximately, exactly, the same number. A detail so specific that it points, unmistakably, to someone who knew what John Ramsey's bonus was. The house is contaminated. Trace evidence that should have been collected in the first hours is compromised by the movement of people through the space before it was secured. DNA is collected, but it is partial, insufficient, to make a definitive identification with the technology available in 1996. The investigation immediately turns in 2 directions, and 30 years later, neither of them has fully closed. One direction is the family. Patsy Ramsey wrote the note. Handwriting analysts are divided, some saying it is hers, some saying it is not. John Ramsey found the body. The bonus amount points inside the family. No evidence of forced entry is found. The people who were in that house on Christmas night are the people who knew the layout, knew the bonus, knew where to go. But the DNA is unidentified. And unidentified DNA on a child's clothing in a homicide investigation is not nothing. The other direction is an intruder, someone who came in, possibly through a window, possibly through a door, someone with knowledge of the family's finances that could have come from any number of sources, someone whose DNA is in the system somewhere, but has never been matched. Both directions have evidence in their favor. Both directions have problems. The relationship between Boulder police and the Ramsey family becomes adversarial almost immediately. Investigators believe the family is involved. The family believes investigators are incompetent and biased. The grand jury that eventually hears the evidence votes to indict both Patsy and John Ramsey on charges of child abuse resulting in death. But the district attorney declines to sign the indictment, citing insufficient evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. The grand jury indictment is sealed for years. When it becomes public, it changes nothing. No charges are ever filed. The Boulder Police Department handles the investigation in ways that investigators from other jurisdictions, reviewing it later, describe as deeply flawed. The scene was compromised from the first hour. Decisions were made that foreclosed possibilities that cannot be reopened. The people who needed to be interviewed separately were interviewed together. The window for establishing critical facts was allowed to close before the facts were established. JonBenét Ramsey was 6 years old on Christmas night. She went to bed in her own house, in her own room, after the holidays. She did not wake up. Or she woke up, and someone was there, in her room, or in the hallway, or somewhere in the house where a child should not encounter anyone she did not know. We do not know which. That is the part that 30 years of investigation has not been able to answer. The most basic part, the part that comes before everything else. What happened to JonBenét Ramsey in her own home on the night of December 25, 1996? We know what was found. We do not know what happened. Patsy Ramsey died of ovarian cancer in 2006, having maintained her innocence until the end. She was never charged. John Ramsey is still alive. He has remarried. He maintains his innocence. He has cooperated with investigators in the years since his daughter's death and has continued to say that he does not know who killed her. In 2023, investigators announced they were pursuing a new lead involving genealogical DNA analysis, the same technique that identified the Golden State Killer. The investigation is ongoing. The note is in evidence. 11 pages of handwriting that someone produced in the Ramsey house on Christmas night. A note long enough and specific enough to suggest someone who spent time writing it. Someone who was either performing the act of composing a ransom note or who genuinely intended one and then did not follow through. The $118,000 is still there. In the note, in the evidence, in every discussion of this case. Exactly John Ramsey's bonus. Someone knew that number. Someone wrote it down. JonBenét is buried in Marietta, Georgia, beside the grave of her mother. She was 6 years old. She was home for Christmas. How did this story hit you? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe to Hollow Fears to unlock the next file. It was the evening of May 18, 1989, in Harlem, New York. The playground beside the Martin Luther King Jr. Towers hums with the ordinary noise of a Thursday evening. Children run between the benches. Mothers call out names across the chain-link fence. Ice cream trucks idle at the corner of 113th Street and Lenox Avenue, and the air carries the smell of exhaust and late spring heat. Allison Dansby sits on a bench for a moment, watching her two boys. Levon, 3 years old, is chasing a pigeon near the fence. Christopher, 2 years old, round-cheeked, a laugh that sounds too big for his body, is running in small circles near the sandbox. The family calls him Choo Choo. He has never been able to sit still for longer than 30 seconds. Allison needs groceries. The store is right across the street. She tells her mother, Christopher's grandmother, to keep an eye on the boys, just for a few minutes. The playground is crowded. People are everywhere. What could happen? She crosses the street. 20 minutes pass. When Allison returns, she scans the playground the way all mothers do, instinctively, without thinking, looking for the familiar shape of her child. She finds Levon near the fence. She does not find Christopher. Her mother tells her the last thing she saw: Christopher playing with two other children she didn't recognize. A red ball that nobody brought to the park. And then he was just gone. Not running away, not crying, just gone. The way water disappears from a glass when you aren't looking. Allison calls his name. She checks the bathroom. She asks the other mothers on the benches, the teenagers near the gate, the man selling water ice at the corner. Nobody saw Christopher leave. Nobody saw anything. The police arrive within the hour. They search the apartment building, the nearby streets, the surrounding blocks. A 7-year-old boy from the neighborhood comes forward that evening and tells investigators he saw Christopher walking along West 111th Street, 2 blocks from the playground, in the company of a black man with braids. The boy couldn't say more than that. He didn't know the man. He hadn't seen where they went. The trail ends there. Investigators question Allison about her past drug use, about debts, about whether she sold her son. She has been clean for years. She owes nothing to anyone. The questions leave bruises that never fully heal. Weeks pass, months pass. Christopher does not come home. Then it is August. The summer in Harlem has grown heavy. The kind of heat that sits on your chest and doesn't move. Rosa Glover brings her 19-month-old son Shane to the same playground, the one right outside their building. It is a Thursday evening, just after 5 o'clock. Shane is wearing a blue and white shirt and blue pants. He toddles toward the sandbox while Rosa settles onto a bench, holding an ice cream bar in one hand and watching her son with the other. 2 children approach her, a girl, maybe 10 years old, and a younger boy, 5, perhaps 6. They look at Shane and ask if he can play with them. Rosa hesitates. Shane is so small, but the children seem harmless, eager. She says yes. Almost immediately, a man sits down beside her on the bench. He is a stranger, middle-aged, unhurried, the kind of presence that doesn't announce itself until it's already there. He starts talking. Not about anything urgent, just talking. The way a person talks when they want to fill silence. He tells her about children who go missing. He says Harlem is a dangerous place. He says mothers have to be careful. Something about the conversation makes Rosa uneasy in a way she cannot name. She turns to check on Shane. The sandbox is empty. The 2 children are gone. The man is still sitting beside her, finishing his sentence, as if nothing has happened at all. Rosa screams her son's name across the playground. She runs to the gate, to the street, to the building entrance. She asks every person she passes. Nobody saw Shane leave. Nobody saw the children go. Nobody saw the man on the bench do anything except sit. The NYPD floods the area. They search the towers. They search adjacent streets, rooftops, alleys, every space where a small body could be hidden or a small pair of feet could have wandered. They find nothing. Rosa has avoided that bench ever since. For over 30 years, she has not been able to sit in that park. The similarities between the 2 cases press on investigators like a weight. Both boys lived in the Martin Luther King Jr. Towers. Both disappeared from the same playground on Thursday evenings. Both had been seen playing with the same 2 older children, a 10-year-old girl and a younger boy, just before they vanished. The red ball that appeared with Christopher, that no family member brought to the park, has never been explained. The city posted a $30,000 reward for information. Over 500 reported sightings came in over the years, some as far away as Puerto Rico. None of them led anywhere. Theories have circulated for decades. Investigators explored the possibility that the children were placed in a black market baby ring. Another theory held that both boys were taken by someone who desperately wanted children but could not have them, and raised them as their own. Investigators called this last theory the most likely. They pointed to a case from 1987 when a newborn named Carlina White was taken from a hospital by a woman who raised her under a different name for over 20 years. Carlina eventually discovered the truth on her own and was reunited with her family. Christopher Dansby would be 37 years old now. Shane Walker would be 36. Allison Dansby has said that some days, the weight of going on is almost too much. She does not know how to grieve for a child whose fate she cannot confirm. She does not know whether to mourn or to keep waiting. She has been doing both for 35 years. Rosa Glover appeared on a television program a year after Shane disappeared. Psychics told her he had been sold and adopted. She has never stopped believing he is alive somewhere, that he grew up with a different name in a different house, that he does not know who he is. The NYPD began searching for a second little boy, just as they had months earlier. No arrests have ever been made. No suspects have ever been named. Neither Christopher Dansby nor Shane Walker has ever been found. The playground is still there, on Lenox Avenue beside the towers. Children still play in the sandbox on Thursday evenings in summer. The bench where Rosa sat is still there too. She has never gone back to sit on it. How did this story hit you? Drop it in the comments. And subscribe to Hollow Fears to unlock the next file. We are a brand new channel, so we really need your support. Stick around and make sure to subscribe. It was February 2nd, 2008, in Saanich, British Columbia, Canada. Lindsay Buziak is 24 years old. She is a real estate agent, young, ambitious, building her career. She has a boyfriend, Jason Zylo. She has an apartment, friends, a life that is going somewhere. A few days before February 2nd, she receives a call on her cell phone. The caller is a woman. She speaks with a foreign accent, Spanish or Latin American, Lindsay tells people, though she cannot place it exactly. The woman says she and her husband are looking to buy a house. She gives a price range. She is specific about what she wants. She asks Lindsay to show her a property on Torquil Place, a vacant house currently listed, the kind of house that a real estate agent shows by unlocking the door and walking through the empty rooms with clients. Lindsay takes the appointment. She tells Jason about it. She mentions, in the days before the showing, that something about the call felt strange. She cannot say exactly what. The accent, maybe. The specificity. The woman had called her cell phone directly. Not the agency, not the listing line, but Lindsay's personal number, which is not the number most buyers would have. She goes anyway. Because the unease is vague and the appointment is real, and this is what she does. She shows houses to buyers and she does her job, and the feeling of something being slightly off is not a reason to cancel a showing. She has probably had 100 clients call her cell directly. She has probably had clients with accents before. There is no specific thing to point to. There is only the feeling. She goes anyway. On February 2nd, Jason drives Lindsay to the house on Torquil Place. He parks outside. He will wait, the plan is, while she does the showing, A normal arrangement. The kind of thing that happens when a partner drives their significant other somewhere and waits in the car. At 5:30 p.m., a couple is seen entering the house with Lindsay, a man and a woman. Neighbors see them go in. At 5:38 p.m., Jason gets a text from Lindsay's phone saying everything is fine. At 5:41 p.m., Jason and a friend enter the house. They find Lindsay on the floor of one of the bedrooms. She has been stabbed multiple times. She is still alive when they find her. She dies before the ambulance arrives. The couple is gone. 8 minutes. Between the text saying everything is fine and the moment Jason walks through the door and finds her, 8 minutes have passed. Jason reads the text and thinks everything is fine. He sits in the car. He checks his phone. He waits the way you wait when your girlfriend is doing a showing and you have nothing to do but wait. 8 minutes. The couple entered with her, killed her, and left through the back of the house while Jason was still sitting in the car outside. They knew the layout. They knew the timing. They knew how long they had. This was planned. The investigation begins immediately, and it has never ended. Saanich police work the case. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police become involved. The description of the couple, a man and a woman, the woman in a distinctive patterned dress that neighbors remember clearly, is circulated. The cell phone that called Lindsay is traced to a prepaid phone, purchased with cash, used only to call her and then never used again. The woman with the accent has never been identified. The man with her has never been identified. Investigators look at Lindsay's life. They look at Jason's family. His mother, Shirley Zylo, is also in real estate. And there are rumors in Saanich about connections to drug trafficking, about people who might have had reasons to send a message. Lindsay had mentioned to friends in the weeks before her death that she was afraid of something, that she had information about something, that she was thinking about going to police about something she had learned. She never said what. She never went to police. Whatever she knew, or whatever someone believed she knew, was enough. The person who made that call knew Lindsay's cell number, knew which house to choose, knew to use a prepaid phone, knew to book a specific appointment time, knew to bring a second person to manage the situation, knew how to get in and get out in 8 minutes while a boyfriend sat in a car on the street and a text message bought them time. Real estate agents show vacant houses alone all the time. They unlock empty properties and walk through them with strangers, and this is ordinary, unremarkable, the routine of the job. Lindsay has done it hundreds of times. Every real estate agent has. The vulnerability in that routine is invisible until someone decides to use it. This was not impulsive. This was not random. Someone researched Lindsay Buziak, chose Lindsay Buziak, and planned the specific way she would die in a specific house on a specific evening. No one has been charged. Lindsay's father, Jeff Buziak, has spent 17 years refusing to let this case go cold. He maintains a website. He gives interviews. He names names he believes are connected, names that police have investigated and not charged. He is relentless in the way that parents become relentless when the system has not delivered justice for their child. The Saanich Police Department has named persons of interest. They have not laid charges. Lindsay Buziak is buried in Calgary, where she grew up. She was 24 years old. She took an appointment because it is her job to take appointments, because she is a real estate agent and someone called with a specific request and a price range and a property in mind, and she had no reason to say no. After 17 years, the case is still officially open. Saanich police say they are still working it. They say the right information from the right person could break it open. The woman with the accent knows who she is. The man with her knows who he is. They have been living with what they did for 17 years. The house on Torquil Place sold eventually. Someone else lives there now. The bedroom where Lindsay was found looks like a bedroom. The woman with the foreign accent has never called again. How did these 3 stories hit you? Drop a comment below and tell us. What kind of cases do you want to hear next? If you're still here, subscribe to Hollow Fears. New cases every day.